Good morning. Welcome into Five Clubs. It is nice to be home in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am Gary Williams. You can be watching on Golf Channel. You can be listening. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio. This program always brought to you by Century Insurance, right by you. They do the right things when it comes to their investments in the game of golf, from the USGA to the first tee. Of course, Golf Pride, when it comes to grips. And it's funny, I was saying this over the weekend. I've had the same reverse taper putter grip on my putter for almost 2 years. I played a reasonable amount of golf. That shows you not only their quality, but my commitment to, I think, the best new putter grip line, all their grips. That's why more players trust Golf Pride than any grip company. Peter Millar, everything that I've worn for 15 years, including this, I could be ensconced in 50 shades of blue. From the tie to the jacket, it is all Peter Millar. And of course, the cradle of American golf, Pinehurst, they just crowned their North-South champions, men and women, over the weekend. That is one of the great amateur championships when it comes to building a trip and wanting to go and play a number of different golf courses, enjoy a number of different restaurants, not to mention they have the brewery as well. The new cottages at number 8, it is Pinehurst. Go to pinehurst.com. We got a lot to get to on a Monday back from Nebraska and Colorado, and I've got things to say about what's going on not only in that state, but really what it represents as far as golf, public and private as well. Zak going to join me, senior writer from Golf Magazine, golf.com, to get his thoughts on a number of things as we get to the last day of June, getting ready to roll it into the month of July. And I will say this about this week, with July 4th being on Friday, take it all off. I mean the week, that is. Take the whole week. Because you know how when Christmas is on a Wednesday and somehow you figure out a way to take those two pre-Christmas days as a buffer leading in, and then you're certainly not going to go back to the office on the 26th or the 27th? Take the whole week. It's July 4th week. It's a glorious American holiday, and it is Friday. A lot of golf going to be played all over the country, I know. Longest days of the year, which is glorious. They had themselves a long one yesterday in the Motor City. That's where we will begin, because Aldrich Potgieter, at the age of 20, has won on the PGA Tour. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, because he gets through a couple of guys in a playoff. They eliminated Chris Kirk, or you could say he eliminated himself. And then it was Max Gracerman and Aldrich who were down to the end, the longest playoff they've had this season. Beyond that, Michael Thorbjornsen, very good result for him in this respect. He goes from 110th to 84th in the FedEx Cup standings. Jake Knapp, good week for him. Again, you want to embed yourself as deep as you can inside that top 70. He goes from 60 to 54. Nico Echeverria, another good performance for him. This guy is having a very solid season. Jackson Suber, you talk about needing one. He went from 139th to 108th in the FedEx Cup standings. Matt Fitzpatrick, he needs Ryder Cup points. He finishes in a tie for 8th. As to Colin Morikawa, another interesting, kind of weird, clumsy week for Colin off the golf course. You know, the caddy stuff is what it is. I don't know about why it didn't work with him and Joe Griner, but a dust-up with Adam Schupak before the tournament started. Tristan Lawrence, speaking of needing points, 163rd in the FedEx Cup standings coming in. He ends the week at 139. So he had a good performance at the U.S. Open. He backs it up at the Rocket Classic. But we will start with the guy who won, and I've got more to say about the other guy who he outlasted at the end, not to mention Chris Kirk as well, who was looking for his 7th win in his PGA Tour career. When guys win at such a tender age on the PGA Tour, you start putting lists together. And we're going to show you a couple things momentarily, but one of the things that we've seen in this generation of player, whether they're young players, middle-aged players, or guys who are in kind of twilight when it comes to their professional careers, is not only the introduction, but really the density of information and data and metrics that players use to build their game plan, and then for all of us to kind of assess their performance. In the strokes gained era, we're in it right now. And I think it's great. I think it's not only easy to understand and easy to relate to and easy to explain. I think it's representative of performance, because when you look at strokes gained, which is your average, which is your performance against the mean, it represents itself in outcomes. But I say this a lot to the junior players that I'm around and lucky to be around over the course of the summertime on Steph Curry's underrated tour, is that two things. One, the best thing you can do as a young player to make your friends and peers better is to try to beat them tomorrow. And it means at the end of the day, you shake hands and you go, you were better than me today. But the other thing, beyond all of this data that we have that is very useful, the most important stat is the most elusive stat. Who won? Who won? Because at the end, that's the thing that matters most. And I have said this, and I'm sure many of you have heard me say this about, at the end, great players, generational great players, and I don't know, I think it's premature to say that of most anybody. You know, I think that there have been times in our lives that we felt pretty confident, Tiger, we could say whatever we were going to say about him, whether it was 12 or 14 or right now the odometer for majors is at 15, that it was going to work out for him. I don't know, but here are a couple of things about Aldrich Pitegeter that I do know. He knows how to win. And that, to me, is representative of all great players. Go back. They didn't skip steps. And when they went through the process of getting to that highest plateau, and then they themselves will determine, and to a lesser degree their competition, what their ceiling is, did you win at every level? And if you start clicking off that as you ascend in the game, you're doing two things. It's about self-belief, and it's also about the idea that I've proven that I am as good as anybody or better than anybody at this level. Now it's time to get to another place where the air gets a little rarer, a little thinner, a little harder to breathe. Can I win here? And then I move on. So you look at this young man's life in the game of golf. He won the Amateur Championship, which some people would say, well, what is that? USAM? No, the British Amateur, one of the oldest amateur championships that we have in the game of golf. He won it at 17, the second youngest to ever do it. And then he doesn't use the American college golf system, which I think has become even a better way to measure yourself against your peer group. He made the choice, being from South Africa, not to do that. So he turned professional, and he became the youngest winner on the Korn Ferry Tour at 19. Now, we've had players who have won at that age or even younger at the PGA Tour level, Jordan Spieth being one of them at the John Deere, which, by the way, is this week. He did that in 2013. So he wins there. And then by virtue of his performance, not only just winning one golf tournament, more production, he gets to the PGA Tour. And at 20, he had a chance earlier this season to win in Mexico, and it didn't work out. But later on in the season, yesterday, he did. So now he starts entering really elusive company. Think about making the choice to go to a different country to develop yourself in whatever vocation it is that you've chosen. So he's not in South Africa, he's in the United States. And I think sometimes we take that stuff for granted, that players from all over the world come here. They not only have to get acclimated to golf courses and agronomics and all that, and a lot of great juniors play all over the world to begin with, but he made that choice. So not only has he gotten comfortable being here, and oh, by the way, he works with Justin Parsons, one of the great instructors based in Sea Island, so he's got that from a foundational piece, but think about non-Americans at a very young age to win. And take a look at this list. In this list, you can say, well, it remains to be seen with a couple of them. Of course, because it's happened more recently. Seve Ballesteros, right up I-85 in the state of North Carolina in 1978, won the GGO. Oh, yes, I'd love to just be able to call it that, but we have the Wyndham Championship, and I get it. He was 20. Rory, right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, shooting 62 in a final round, zipping by Phil Mickelson. It's worked out for him. I think it's going to work out quite well and already has for Joaquin Niemann. And again, if you want to poke holes in the major record, that's not the point here. He won at the Greenbrier at 20. Tom Kim, also in this North Carolina, very good to the young men to come here and win. He wins the Wyndham Championship at the age of 20. And now Aldrich Pitegeter adds his name to that list. That's strong stuff. Let me add one other little item about winning at a tender age in the last 50 years in a playoff. Tiger's first win as a professional was in 1996 in Las Vegas. He beat Davis Love in a playoff. And I mentioned the Jordan Spieth at the John Deere. He won what was a marathon playoff in 2013. David Hearn and Zach Johnson. David Hearn could have won that thing a couple times. And Spieth won, and he was 19. And Aldrich Peitgeter adds his name to that short little list. Winning all the data, all the strokes gained approach and around the green and putting and off the tee and total, all useful, all valuable. How much do you win? Let me also add that he won the Junior Invitational at Sage Valley, which is, outside of the U.S. Junior Amateur, widely considered to be kind of the Masters of junior golf. He won that as well. You show me somebody who makes everything, that means they likely score exceptionally well, and you show me somebody who knows how to win. Scheffler also won the Junior Invitational, in addition to about 1 million other junior golf tournaments. When you get into those places, late in golf tournaments, and for everyone out there going, well, have you seen him chip? Have you seen his strokes gained approach? I get it. I get it. He is an uncut gem. He's an uncut diamond. I get it. Kevin Garnett, excellent in that film, by the way, with Adam Sandler. Aldrich Peitgeter, at 20 years of age, has won some important stuff already. And if that young man finds comfort on Sundays on that tour, for all of the inconsistencies and kind of the ugliness at times of the way his chipping kind of looks, I'll take the other stuff. And we are intoxicated by speed in this game now, because we know that the more speed, the more you can move it, and the closer you are to the hole in relation to your competition, the next shot you strike, that data also points to your results being better. That dude was easing it around Detroit Golf Club at 193, 194 miles an hour. That is not a normal cruising altitude or speed for anybody, let alone the best players in the world. 193, 194, and he's gutting fairways in a playoff? That is freakish stuff. 20 and a winner on the PGA Tour, and you add 17 in the Amateur and 19 in the Korn Ferry Tour. He's got goods. He's got the bona fides. And if he can round out and refine and sharpen the other things, and as Hal Sutton said to me years ago, it's hard to make a weakness a strength, but if you can just make it a borderline asset and lean on your strength, you're going to make a hell of a living. He has a chance to do just that. All right, we take a break here. Sean Zak, senior writer, Golf Magazine, is going to join me. A number of items to get to with him as we get to this crucial month, because we're a month away from a lot of things changing in terms of guys not knowing exactly where they're going to be playing in 2026, and others thinking, I'm in the 70 or I'm in the 100. Not to mention, is Player of the Year over? And what are the priorities for the new CEO of the PGA Tour? And Liv had themselves a week where there was noise and a crowd, and where are they as it relates to the PGA Tour? We get to all those items with him, and also a little recap on going to Nebraska, golf's holy land. It is a Monday, it's 4th of July week, and like I said, take the whole thing off. Why wouldn't you? We're back right here on Golf Channel and on Channel 92 on Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio right after this. Good to have you in on a Monday. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel on PGA Tour Radio's Channel 92. That is Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Golf Pride. When it comes to grips, they have more options. And I'm not just talking about the ones you put on your irons and your metal woods. I'm talking about the reverse taper putter grip line as well. Golf Pride is the most trusted grip company in the world. Players at every single level. All right, he plays a lot of golf. Spent a summer in St. Andrews, wrote a book about it. Senior writer at Golf Magazine, that is golf.com, joins me now from his home in Chicago, Illinois. That is Sean Zak. Sean, my friend, good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you, Gary. I'm doing well.
Thank you for joining me. We've got a lot of items to get to with you because it's here. Like this is kind of the end of the line here for a lot of things when it comes to PGA Tour. It's July. The final major of the year is a couple weeks away. Playoffs a month away. Let me ask you, as far as the story of the year, because we move on from things, and then the next thing becomes the biggest thing and the most recent thing. Is there any way for any other story to eclipse the Rory Masters win as the story of the year in professional golf?
I think the answer to that is no, but I'm willing to go down this path with you for a second. I mean, I think Rory's Masters win is maybe one of the three biggest stories of the decade, or that it eventually will be one of the three biggest stories of the decade. But I was thinking, like, okay, how could you possibly get a winner at Portrush to be bigger than Rory at the Masters? For the people of Northern Ireland, it might be Rory winning at Royal Portrush. But this is where it gets a little zany because Rory at the Masters was so big. We'd either need like an amateur to somehow win the Open at Portrush, or if you want to get like really crazy, a Northern Irishman named Darren Clark. That would be the only thing that could possibly happen at the final major of the year to actually like triumph over Rory at the Masters with the Grand Slam. And I think that's probably not even going to happen.
Yeah, it's not likely to happen. I think. Look, I wanted to challenge you on this because I'm not here to challenge the answer because I think that is the answer. I just think in terms of how rare the accomplishment is, we've waited a quarter century to see somebody do it again. The fact that I think, with all due respect to Sarazen, as we've said countless times, nobody knew exactly when he won in 1935, so he's the first to do it really, the Masters as the Masters, not only in the modern age, really at all time. It wasn't even called that then in 35. I think that's it. Let me ask you if Europe wins the Ryder Cup, and let's say it's one of those wins where decisive, whether it's 2 points, 3 points, any win on the road feels decisive because it happens so infrequently. And let's say it causes like huge change. Could the Ryder Cup become something that the way that it just kind of hangs out there in the ether could maybe run second as the story of the year?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely could be second of the year. If you think back to 2023 even, it was a bit of a quiet, summer. Okay, it's the first summer of Scotty, if you will. And we thought like, well, the summer of golf is over with. And then you have Patrick Cantlay and Joe LaCava and Rory McIlroy in Italy making things really weird. And then that story has continued to roll forward into 2025. So the Ryder Cup is this, indeterminate thing that no one knows how it's going to go. All we know is that it's going to get wild. And we'll talk about it later, but there's a lot of reasons why it's just going to be wild. There's no way it won't be wild.
No. Let's just go ahead and talk about it now. Do you expect Keegan Bradley to be on the team?
I do. We're at the point where it's like, it would be shocking if he wasn't on the team, and only because he is one of the 8 best Americans. It's just the truth. He's played like it. He's kind of played like it now for the last 15 months or so. So you would be hurting the team, I think, in one way, to sit on the sidelines, and you are just going against, I guess, the conventional nature of how Ryder Cups have been run. But this event happens every 2 years. It happens on your home turf every 4 years. We don't even have that much of a sample size to say, can you be a good captain and can you do it while also playing? I think the truth is it's going to be hard, but when you're looking around the room of options and you're like, hey, man, we need someone to be confident and we need someone to be steely and we need someone who's been there before to pair up with Ben Griffin or with JJ Spawn. Like, you need players. You need like psyche solid players. And Keegan Bradley has proven himself to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I've said this from the outset because it was reasonable to think, even at the beginning of the year, that the uncertainty of the back half of that roster put him in a position where saying he could be a playing captain was not unreasonable in January. Now we hear it's July tomorrow, and it's more than reasonable. It's likely. But Sean, I would say this. Do you honestly think that he can be the best at either if he's trying to do both?
No, I definitely don't think so. But again, like you just said it, the back half of that roster is unproven. I am not going to say any of those players are going to be better or worse than a playing captain version of Keegan Bradley, but they are just unproven entities. And the American team will have the benefit of playing at home. That's about as good as an advantage as you can get. They're playing a course that they know that Keegan grew up on. Uh, I don't think he can do both well. I will say, I think about it 12 months ago when this decision was made and it wasn't yet public. The word trickled out to Luke Donald and Rory McIlroy and Tyrrell Hatton and Shane Lowry. And I know for a fact that those guys were thinking, let's go. You basically either took a player that's really good off the board, or you're going to cause some chaos by making him a playing captain. We are on this side of that spectrum of events happening. I know that they are happy because it's only going to bring some sort of chaos at some point. Will it be big chaos? Who knows? Will Keegan get out on the first tee and thump his chest and create some sort of chaotic environment? Probably. And so everyone will be in the chaos at that point. I know who's really liking it are the people, the TV executives who are going to be counting up the ratings for this thing because they will be very good.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Usually the Ryder Cup doesn't need additional wrinkles, but it always seems to get it because it is different to begin with. It puts these guys and pits them in a confrontational environment for really the only time that they experience it respectfully to the President's Cup. It doesn't have that friction or that edge to it that this competition does. And then you add the likelihood now of a playing captain, and it's the American captain, and it's a guy who's demonstrative and emotes in a way that you go, settle down. You may literally hyperventilate. It gives them, Sean, like this wrinkle of examining him and having a Keegan cam. You think we're not getting a Keegan cam? Come on.
I think we will be getting a Keegan cam. I think there's going to be probably numerous cameras devoted to him. The one thing that I think we need to, I guess, at this point recognize is that there will be some pivot of duties given to Jim Furyk. People are forgetting about Jim Furyk's role in this whole thing. He was a captain in the Ryder Cup in France who did probably as good of a job as you can when there is some turmoil in the locker room. He ended up captaining last year's President's Cup team extremely successfully. When Brandt Snedeker is going to captain the next President's Cup, he's talking about what Jim Furyk told him. Keegan's talking about what Jim Furyk taught him. Jim is taking on a very quiet but like important role. He's going to be there in New York, and I think people are going to lean on him a lot more than we're anticipating.
All right, let's get back to some tour items. Brian Rolapp, they do the rollout of Rolapp at the Travelers, and this guy's got very, very impressive credentials. They're weighty credentials. He's not just an NFL guy coming from the Shield. Like, he could have been the guy from everybody I've talked to who covers that league. In terms of priorities, what do you think they might be? What do you think they should be? And is that the same thing?
Yeah, they probably are the same thing. I think the early priorities are just taking any potential question marks that are in the air still and settle them down. If you look at the last 3 to 4 years on the PGA Tour with Jay Monahan in control, there's been a lot that's been unsettled. The number of tournaments, the number of sponsors, the number of signature events, the number of FedEx Cup points that are on offer in all these events, that stuff has been fluctuating. It's been changing. And I think more than maybe any other industry in the world, besides probably like the airline industry, PGA Tour players love predictability. They love planning their schedules. They want to know when their off weeks are. They don't like when things are unsettled. They don't like when a T7 one week is the same amount of points as a T17 the next week. And so I think that Rolapp's first duty is like anything that has kind of been unsettled, maybe the format of the Tour Championship. Again, like the number of tournaments that create the tour schedule, that needs to be settled so that they have a product that they can bring to market. Because as I understand it, Rolapp is great at taking a product to the market. It's why the NFL is the biggest sporting industry now in the world. He had a product, he brought in good things to that product, but only benefited it. And I really think that like settling out all the kind of like rounded edges of the tour product and making it all a lot more stable is his first priority. And, it could take him a little while to figure it all out.
Where do you think live resolution sits in his head? The idea that he could be the one that primarily is responsible more so than Scott O'Neill from live. The lion's share of people are more interested or curious, I believe, in the pathways back as opposed to a pathway to, whether it be a team or some players playing some events on live. Where do you think that sits?
Yeah, well, at the very least, he's a set of fresh eyes, and a fresh eyes look at a 3 or 4 year old problem is a good thing. I think it's probably pretty high on his priority list because he wants that product to be as sellable as you could possibly make it. And how do you make that more sellable? You get DeChambeau back, you get Brooks Koepka back, Cam Smith, even Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, John Rahm. So I think that it's got to be pretty high on his list. And the tricky part is you got to convince Tiger Woods, Patrick Cantlay, Camilo Villegas, people on the policy board that we're bringing these guys back. We are all going to benefit from it, and no one currently on the PGA Tour is going to get undercut. And also, boys, like, you can deal with a little bit of team golf. I think that's the thing where we may not know the answer right now, and Rolapp may not know the answer right now, but this is a man who kind of envisioned the creation of Thursday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could he envision something with players from Live Golf? Could he envision team golf in the way that Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the man who kind of believes he created team golf and holds the checkbook to like billions of dollars? Could he envision something that Jay Monahan just couldn't envision, that is a little bit beyond the forecast that Tiger Woods has for PGA Tour golf? I think a lot of people have been very close-minded, and they're completely in their right to be very narrow-minded. Can he come in and like open up their purview a little bit by saying, guys, we did this at the NFL, it worked. We've done this in football, here's how it can look in golf.
Yeah, I also think that gets back to your point about scheduling. I wouldn't be a bit surprised, and I'm a believer that they need to look, if you're going to subsidize these other entities that are under the tour umbrella, whether it be PGA Tour champions, whether it be the Korn Ferry Tour, why not own afternoons during the week more often with live golf? I had listened to plenty of researchers over the years saying balls in the air are more valuable than butts in chairs, like mine right now. Like, the gas baggery has only a certain value, Sean. We need action. And why not more to where you say that you always know that there's a competition under the big umbrella that is the tour brand going on more often. I expect that, kind of to your point about looking at how many more days can the NFL own. And I'm not comparing it, but I'm saying modestly, Thursday nights, Christmas Day, the NFL said, I get it, NBA, you had that. It's ours now. We're not going to defer to you on Christmas Day. So I think that'd be another one. Let me ask you about two other things before I let you go. Player of the Year, it should be close, even though, Scotty piles up all these top fives and top tens. The one guy has got two of the most important events on his ledger and his signature event, that being Rory. Then Scotty's got the 3 wins and all the other production. How do you think this shakes out?
It's going to be Scotty. I think barring a Rory win at Portrush or him getting hot in the playoffs, I think it's going to be Scotty, because you look back, he hasn't finished outside the top 8 since the middle of March. Like, the Players, when Rory won, that was the last time he finished outside the top 8. So it's this string of consistent play where you are disappointed when he doesn't get it across the line at Oakmont, and darn, he finishes tied for 8th. I would expect him to win again this year. I would expect him to maybe pick off one of the playoff events. That's what it's gotten to with him. You look back at what the last couple years have been, and it's been 2 of the best years we've seen since Tiger. This year is just as good. It does not have the integer of wins that you talked about earlier in the show, but it does have the stats. Like, you have to go so far down the list of stats to find where he's at the average level of the PGA Tour player. I actually did it, Gary. I looked down the list, and he finally drops outside the top 100 when you were looking at approaches from the rough, which I think kind of says it all. He is an average tour pro playing from the rough, and he is rarely in the rough. That's just kind of how Scotty Scheffler plays golf.
Last thing, Colin Morikawa, the caddy stuff, look, some things work, some things don't. I have no idea why that didn't jive with Joe Greiner. But last week is another episode of kind of him, being in a combative way with the media member. What do you make of all this?
I think that Colin is one of the most particular players on the PGA Tour, and that is to say you are incredibly particular of the particulars. Like these guys live that life. And I don't want to give him an out necessarily, because I think there are ways that he could have improved on how he's handled some things the last few months, but that is just how he is. He really likes things his way. He literally speaks out loud about what Colin golf is. And that is a noun in his brain, which means hitting soft cuts off the left side of the fairway. So he likes things his way. And I don't think he liked the way he was approached last week. I know he reads a lot. He reads pretty much, I don't know if it's everything, but he reads a lot of things that are written about him. And he didn't like the way that he was quoted, and he didn't really like the way he was being perceived. And so, he's certainly biased toward himself, but he's just a very particular guy who's kind of been not getting, again, those wins out of what has been really good golf. Like, I think more than any player in pro golf the last 2 years, he has played so much better than maybe the wins have tallied up. And that, for a particular person, is going to eat at you, and it's going to make you just unsettled. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing with Colin right now, is he's really annoyed with not getting across the line and then kind of not having control of maybe everything.
Yeah, I think that was on display a little bit last year, not with, getting in little dust-ups with media members. I thought he was combative and kind of ticked in a good way. I liked where his state of mind was. And this year, it's just weird that somebody you never associated with him having anything confrontational or controversial as it related to the media. And obviously, around the API, goes into the players. It's a huge week. And then this latest one last week. Listen, I always appreciate your viewpoint. Thank you. Have a great week. Good Fourth. Hope to see you soon.
You got it, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Sean Zak, senior writer, Golf Magazine. You can read all this stuff. They've got a great podcast that he does as well with Dylan at golf.com. We take a break. We come back. Some other items from the week, including Padraig Harrington getting his second U.S. Senior Open win. Speaking of dust-ups, he has one with Raj. We'll get to that, and Nebraska as we continue on a Monday here on Golf Channel. Also, Channel 92 on Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio. Back right after this. Welcome back in on this Monday edition of 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen to us on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. Everything that I have worn for the last 15 years is the leader when it comes to a lifestyle brand. There's nothing that I need wherever it is that I'm going that Peter Millar cannot provide. Go to petermillar.com. That includes this jacket, this tie, this shirt, everything that I wear. It's interesting. I was at Landmand in Homer, Nebraska, and I had a guy from Dallas, Texas, literally say that to me. Met him in the pro shop, and he was walking out the door. He goes, "It's all I've worn for the last 15 years. I said, "What did you just say?" He goes, "Oh, you heard me." That was very funny. All right, what was not funny but impressive was Padraig Harrington winning another senior major. He wins the U.S. Senior Open. He does so at the Broadmoor. And Stewart Cink had his chances, most notably. Stewart had a very, very good birdie chance. He had a fantastic second shot to the 17th hole yesterday, which could have tied him for the lead. And then he absolutely hits a BB on the 18th hole, hits it right just short basically what is a trench or ditch that bisects the fairway. And then he's got the shortest club into the 18th green, and he had the longest birdie putt. So kind of some missed opportunities, but for Padraig Harrington, who has become, you could say, the best player over the age of 50, when you start piling up the senior majors. And to me, look, you can weight these senior majors equally if you want to, and I think broadly that's fair. But I've always looked at this one because the United States Golf Association, there's a resistance to scoring that you usually get. It's not to say you can't go to the Senior Open and you have just brutal weather and the winner might be 4 or 5 under. I think that this one, its 45th edition, they started it in 1980, is the best one. The other thing about Padraig Harrington is that, when Padraig Harrington was kind of in his prime and he won, his little collection of major championships, getting those 3, he won the Open Championship 2007, repeated, and then in addition to that, won the PGA in 2008. Nobody considered him then to be among, and maybe it's because he wasn't being asked as much, his opinion on things. But he has become very interesting. He's quirky. He's funny without intentionally trying to be funny. And what he rarely ever is controversial. But on Friday, after his round, in what essentially is kind of like a combination of the scoring area and the scrum media area, where players and you have officials, and then you have the scoring area, and then you do like this flash media session. Everything kind of is all right there in this triage of things going on. And when he finished his second round, he was a little amped up because there was a situation on the 15th hole where he was searching for a golf ball. And usually when a search commences, which is now only allowed to be 3 minutes, and believe me, not that we're relying hard and fast on times at the recreational level, when you hit a ball and you get to it and you don't have marshals out there that have already ID'd it, that 3 minutes, my gosh, going from 5 to 3, doesn't it feel like we've gone from 5 minutes to like 30 seconds? It's very, very unnerving. So he had that going on. And he has, because he's an elite player and he's in a featured group, he's got a walking reporter / commentator, and that's Roger Maltby, who's among the best to ever do it and is beloved. But apparently Roger did not search for his ball that was lost on the 15th hole. And Padraig wasn't particularly happy about it. Listen to this little video and audio exchange between these two gentlemen.
It's okay, Roger. No. Never on a golf course stand looking at somebody looking. That's a hard You've played golf all your life. You understand. There you go. You understand the etiquette. You don't stand looking at somebody looking for a You've played golf for 40 years. You've played golf for 40 years. You don't stand looking. Well, I can tell you, as the etiquette of the game is, you don't stand looking at somebody looking for a golf. You told me you look for hundreds of golf. You told me you told me you don't stand looking at somebody looking for a golf.
Padraig Harrington allowing his emotions to get the best of him. Roger Maltby has no obligation to search for his golf ball. What he has an obligation to is this, and that is a voice in his ear. That is either his director or his producer who is telling him where he needs to be. And look, there are certainly times that on-course reporters are in a position to help out in the search for an errant tee shot or golf ball. And that happens all the time. I mean, a couple weeks ago at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, Rory McIlroy on the fourth tee hit an errant tee shot between the fourth and fifth holes into what was just an enormous area of ditches and native fescues, and the ball was essentially lost until it was found. There were a lot of people, including media members, who were trying to help. That's fine for them to do that, but it's certainly not an obligation. Now, apparently, Roger Maltby got an apology from Padraig Harrington, according to Mark Rolfing, colleague of his on the NBC golf team, saying that Padraig apologized and Roger accepted it, and we move on. I know this, that look, when you are out on a golf course and you are searching for your own ball, and if there's anybody who's around who's not assisting in that, it can get you a little ticked off. I totally get it, because you know that there are people you play with that you will help with the search of their golf ball when it so happens, and they won't do the same, and it makes you chafed, doesn't it? Come on, it does. But it doesn't mean that that person, in particular in this circumstance, is doing the wrong thing. There's no such thing as him, with respect to etiquette. Would he like to? Sure. But under that circumstance, could he, or he felt like he could? The answer was no. And that's it. And you leave it at that. So again, you come off a golf course and you're in competition. It's what it is, and those things happen. I don't think any less of Padraig Harrington in any way at all. And with respect to Roger Maltby, as he said, there's not been a check that I've raked from NBC over the last 2.5+ decades that had Padraig Harrington's name at the bottom of it. Well said. All right, we take a break, we come back. My thoughts on a trip to what I think is one of the most important and also spiritual places you can go to experience golf in this country. Back on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and on Channel 92, Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, also on Sirius XM's Channel 92, that's PGA Tour Radio. This segment is brought to you by Pinehurst. They just crowned their champions, one of the great amateur events in golf, the North-South, their men's and women's champions. The young man who won is headed to Vanderbilt University. Why wouldn't he be headed there if he wants to have the greatest experience in collegiate golf? Transferred from Pacific. They also got the U.S. kids. They always do that in July. That's what Pinehurst is. It's the cradle of American golf for players at every level, competitively, recreationally, to go and just love and enjoy the game of golf. And speaking of which, we were out in Colorado Springs last week for the first event, the underrated tour, Steph Curry's great vision for junior golf. And then I made the choice to go back to the state of Nebraska. And there's something about it, and I will tell you, you're going to see some photos here. Sandhills, I believe, and these are some pictures of Sandhills Golf Club, constructed by Bill Court, Ben Crenshaw, their amazing team. I said it last week on social media. It's a screenplay. That's Ben's porch, named for Ben Crenshaw. The modest little structure where you can see virtually every single hole. You get the best burger when you're done you've ever had. And we played golf that day with Gil Hance, who's a member of the 5 Clubs family. And then on to CapRock Ranch in Valentine, Nebraska, north of Sandhills, which sits right on the edge of the Snake River Canyon, just south of the state of South Dakota. You can't believe you're in Nebraska. It is such an extraordinary piece of work. I don't think there are many places in this country to play golf better. And I don't want to put some number on it like it's top 15, top 20. I'm just telling you, it's that good. And then from CapRock Ranch, driving on I-20, it's not even an interstate, it's highway, State Highway 20, leaving CapRock Ranch in Valentine on a Saturday morning at 4:30 in the morning, driving east through towns like O'Neill, the Irish capital of Nebraska, and Ainsworth, which they had the World Horseshoe Throwing Championships in 1986. Population, 1,960 people. And you get to that place, Landmand, public golf. Rob Collins and Tad King and their amazing team said, yeah, we can build a golf course on this land, and the scale and the scope and the grandiosity of all of it is so overwhelming. And we played with Will Anderson, who's the owner, and he and his family were thinking, I don't know what the use for this land is, because we can't grow anything on this land. They grew golf on that land. So Nebraska has become this really amazing place for golf. And that is CapRock Ranch, and that's when you see these in-bumps on our show. You see parts of CapRock Ranch. The first time I went to Nebraska to play golf, I was trying to find myself because I wasn't healthy. And now, in having years of recovery in alcoholism, I'm not running from anything. I now go to places like that and I'm finding more of myself, and I'm finding peace of mind. And that's why I value Nebraska, even above and beyond all the great golf, is that my road to recovery kind of started there. So to go there, it's soulful, it's spiritual, but the people and what they've done there, and for the folks at Landmand, like I said, you thought you couldn't grow anything on that land. The hell you couldn't. You grew golfers and you grew golf. Congratulations. Thanks for giving golfers what we all need, the fellowship, the time, and just the enjoyment of being out there with our people. Have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow on 5 Clubs.